The stars above the world of Varkesh were calm that night. 1,000 Dominion ships moved quietly across the dark sky, their hulls glinting with cold blue light. Admiral Karen Voth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vorath Prime, watching the scanners. Nothing ever happened in this sector. Pirates, smugglers, and traders passed through, but no one dared to challenge the Dominion's control. That was why, when the sensor alarms began to flash red, the crew hesitated. They thought it was a glitch. Report, Voth said, his voice low and steady. The sensor officer frowned at his screen. Admiral, we're picking up a warp signature. Unknown origin. Massive energy reading. It's entering the system now. The Admiral frowned. No ship should have been able to jump that close to a planet. It was dangerous and impossible under normal physics. He stepped closer to the display. Show me. On the holographic map, a small bright mark appeared near the outer moons. It moved slowly at first, then stopped completely. The entire bridge went silent. That can't be right, the officer whispered. It's mass. It's bigger than a battleship, but smaller than a station. The core energy is off the charts. Identify the ship, Voth ordered. The computer worked for a few seconds before returning static. No match in any database. Another officer turned around. Admiral, the ship is transmitting something. An old-style signal. Primitive. Put it through. For a moment, the speakers hissed with noise. Then a calm human voice spoke, clear and cold. This is the Terran vessel Resolute. Stand down! Every person on the bridge froze. Even the hum of machinery seemed to stop. No one had heard that word, Terran, in hundreds of years. Admiral Voth felt his heart skip. Terran? That's not possible. Sir, the communication officer said quietly, the humans are extinct. The Admiral said nothing. He watched the strange dot on the screen. It didn't move. It just waited alone against 200 Dominion warships. Raise shields, Voth said. Do not engage. I want every ship on alert. The Dominion fleet surrounded the newcomer in a wide circle. Fighters flew out, scanning for weapons. But the Resolute remained perfectly still, as if it wasn't afraid. When the first close-range scan returned, the bridge fell silent again. The readings made no sense. The ship's surface seemed to shift, its armor made of something the sensors couldn't identify. Energy flowed through it like a living thing. Admiral, the science officer said softly, this ship, it's not like anything we've ever seen. Its reactor output could power our entire fleet. And there's only one life sign aboard. One? Voth turned sharply. You mean a single person is controlling that? The officer nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Voth's expression hardened. Open a channel. He leaned forward toward the camera. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Karen Voth of the Dominion Fleet. You are in restricted space. Identify your intent. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then the voice came again, steady as before. Intent, observation. Reaction pending. Voth felt a strange chill. Reaction pending. What did that mean? Observation of what? Before he could respond, his sensors flashed again. Admiral! One of the officers shouted. The ship is scanning us! All around, Dominion vessels lit up with invisible waves of light. Every system, every circuit, every crew member's heartbeat was being read. Stop it! Voth barked. Block the scan! But it was useless. The Resolute signal passed through their defenses like smoke through air. Then something even stranger happened. From the belly of the human ship, a small silver object emerged. It drifted slowly through space, moving between Dominion cruisers. Drone detected, the officer said. It's unarmed, just watching us. Destroy it. 2 fighters locked on and fired plasma bolts. The explosions filled the darkness, but when the light faded, the drone was still there, untouched. What in the stars? Then, without warning, the Resolute's power signature spiked. Every ship's sensors lit up in alarm. Admiral, we're being targeted. Raise full shields, Voth shouted. All ships, prepare to fire. The bridge shook as hundreds of cannons charged at once. The fleet opened fire. Beams of plasma and railgun slugs crossed the void, all aimed at the single human vessel. The attacks hit, but they didn't explode. They simply vanished. The Resolute shimmered for a second, then remained completely untouched. What just happened? Voth demanded. Sir, our weapons... They're gone. Energy dispersed on contact. The human ship didn't return fire. Instead, one by one, Dominion ships began to flicker. Their lights dimmed, their systems went dark. "Admiral, we're losing power! All ships report!" Across the fleet, chaos spread. Engines stopped. Weapons failed. Communications collapsed. Within seconds, 200 ships hung silent and cold in space. Only the Resolute glowed softly, untouched in the darkness. "Emergency power," Voth barked. "Restart everything!" His engineers tried, but nothing responded. The systems weren't damaged, they were just turned off. The human voice returned on every open channel, calm and final. "Engagement complete." "No casualties. Stand down." Voth clenched his fists. His pride burned hotter than fear. "You dare disable the Dominion fleet and give orders to me?" But the voice did not answer. The Resolute simply drifted forward, slow and silent, passing through the powerless ships like a ghost. Its engines flared once, and in a blink it vanished into the dark. Silence filled the bridge. The crew looked at each other, pale and shaking. "What was that?" someone whispered. Voth turned back to the main display. "A warning," he said quietly. "The humans are back." For hours, Dominion engineers worked to restore power. When systems finally came online, they found their data cores rewritten. Every ship carried the same message stored in its memory banks. "We are not your enemy. Do not make us one." The next day, the Dominion Council received the same transmission across every channel. The galaxy trembled. The humans, long believed extinct, had returned. But this was not the old human fleet of the ancient wars. This was something else, something stronger. In the far reaches of space, the Resolute cruised alone, its hull reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside the ship, Captain Mara Vance sat in the command chair. Her face was calm, her eyes tired but sharp. She had seen too much war to enjoy fear. Her ship's AI spoke softly. "Contact with local forces complete. Hostile resistance neutralized without destruction." "Good," she said. "We don't need another war." The AI paused. "Do you wish to continue to the next system?" "Yes," she said quietly. "There's more to find." The distress signal originated deeper in the core. She closed her eyes for a moment. The memories came back. The old battles, the last stand of humanity, the terrible silence afterward. When she opened them again, her voice was firm. "They think we're ghosts," she murmured. "Let them. But ghosts can still fight." The ship's engines came alive again, and the Resolute disappeared into the void. Far behind her, in the halls of Dominion Command, the news spread like wildfire. Reports flew from system to system. Fleets gathered. Armies were called to readiness. Every ruler demanded to know the same thing. What happens if the humans are really back? In the marketplaces of Varkesh, traders whispered to each other, eyes wide with fear and wonder. Some said the ship was a myth. Others said they saw it with their own eyes, slicing through fleets without firing a shot. Children began to draw pictures of a glowing ship with the word Terran scratched beneath it. In the Dominion capital, an old scholar opened his ancient archive. He dusted off a forgotten book filled with records of the old wars, of planets burned and empires humbled by the old Terran fleets. He traced his claws across the faded words, "Never provoke a human." And somewhere deep in space, Captain Mara Vance listened to the quiet hum of her ship. The stars stretched endlessly ahead. She didn't know what kind of galaxy she had awakened into, but she could feel it. Something was coming. The Resolute had revealed itself for a reason. It wasn't just a ship. It was a message. A sign that the age of silence was over. The galaxy had forgotten what humanity once was. Soon it would remember. As the Resolute crossed the edge of another star system, a soft transmission echoed from deep space, the same voice repeating through countless frequencies. "This is the Terran vessel Resolute. We come in peace, but we are not defenseless." In every corner of the galaxy, leaders paused, soldiers hesitated, and empires trembled. Something ancient had returned to the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again. Centuries before the arrival of the Resolute, the galaxy had burned. It was known as the Last War, the kind of war that poets refused to write about and historians feared to remember. In that age, humanity had stood alone against a coalition of empires that outnumbered them 1,000 to 1. No one had expected them to win. No one had expected them to survive. But for every world that fell, humans built another ship. For every ally that betrayed them, they found new strength in their own fury. The humans had a reputation across the stars. They never surrendered. They fought until the last breath, the last drop of blood, the last flicker of light. Then, one day, the transmissions stopped. Entire fleets vanished. Human colonies went dark. The great Terran alliance disappeared without explanation. The galaxy moved on, slowly forgetting the ghosts that once haunted it. Empires rose again, convinced that the humans had destroyed themselves. They called it poetic justice, the species that burned everything now consumed by its own fire. But the story didn't end there. Some old captains, the ones who had fought the humans and lived, told different tales. They said the humans had left something behind, a seed, a signal, a promise. "We'll be back," the message said, "when you need us most." The empires mocked the legend for generations, calling it myth. Yet every century or so, someone claimed to hear a faint human broadcast from the dark between stars. It always said the same thing: "Do not forget us." Now, the impossible had happened. A single Terran warship had returned, and the balance of the galaxy trembled. In the Dominion Council chamber, the leaders of 12 sectors gathered under the glow of golden lights. Their faces were grim. Admiral Karin Voth stood before them, his uniform torn and burned from the incident. Behind him floated a hologram of the Resolute. It shimmered in silent motion, the light of its engines pulsing like a living heart. "This ship disabled 200 of our vessels without a single shot," Voth said. "Its technology exceeds anything in our database. It appears to operate under energy principles we do not understand," the council murmured among themselves. One of the oldest members, a reptilian scholar named Esha Kren, hissed softly, "You're certain this is human technology? It could be a deception. Perhaps rebels using old myths to frighten us." Voth met her gaze. "No deception. I heard the voice. It was human. Calm, precise, confident." Another counselor, smaller and sharp-eyed, leaned forward. "Then what do they want?" "That," Voth said, "is the question that should frighten us." While the council debated fear and retaliation, the rest of the galaxy was already whispering. News traveled fast. Traders spoke of a human ship moving through the outer systems, observing, scanning, never attacking. In some places, colonies cheered, especially those under Dominion rule. They saw in the humans a symbol of hope, a sign that someone, somewhere, might finally stand against their masters. In the dark reaches of the Resolute, Captain Mara Vance watched her ship's map as it displayed hundreds of small beacons lighting up across space, all broadcasting the same word, Terran. Her jaw tightened. "They remember us," she whispered. The ship's AI, a soft voice named Hera, responded gently. "Memory persists. Even after centuries, they recall the fear and admiration your kind inspired." "I'm not here to inspire fear," Vance said. "I'm here because of the signal." The distress beacon had been faint when she first received it, a centuries-old call for help from a forgotten human colony. Somehow, her ship had survived in temporal drift, caught in a fold of warped time. What had been days for her had been hundreds of years for the rest of the galaxy. Humanity was gone, but she was not. And the distress call still pulsed through the dark. Hera adjusted the projection. Signal origin, uncertain. Multiple distortions. Possible interference from gravitational anomalies. "Plot the course anyway," Vance said. "We'll find them." As the Resolute moved through the void, strange signals echoed across the Dominion's border worlds. Ships malfunctioned. Satellites went silent. Sometimes, entire mining outposts reported seeing a flash of white light and hearing a single voice before losing contact. The voice always said, "Observe. Do not interfere." In one outer colony, a young mechanic named Koro watched the news feed replay the human transmission for the 100th time. "Stand down," the voice said, smooth and cold. He turned to his sister. "Do you think it's true? The humans are really back?" She laughed nervously. "You've been listening to too many stories." "But what if they're not stories?" Koro said. "What if they're here to fight the Dominion?" His sister looked around quickly, lowering her voice. "Don't say that so loud. The patrols will hear you." Across the galaxy, conversations like that one began to spread. In the corners of bars, in the dark of freight ships, in the whisper networks of rebels, the same idea grew like wildfire. The humans have returned. And maybe they'll save us. But not everyone saw hope. In the empire of the Gentar, a brutal species that had fought the humans in the old wars, their ruler slammed a clawed hand against the table. "We warned them," he roared. "We told the Dominion not to dig near the Terran ruins. They've awakened a nightmare." His advisors bowed their heads. The Gentar had once lost a fleet of 10,000 ships to a single human dreadnought. They still had the wrecks as monuments, reminders of what happens when one underestimates humanity. On Varkesh, Admiral Voth received new orders: find the human ship and make contact, peacefully if possible, forcefully if necessary. But secretly, he had no desire to fight it again. He had seen what the Resolute could do. He knew the Dominion would be throwing lives into a furnace. Still, orders were orders. He assembled a fleet of scouts and set a course for the Outer Rim, where the last known human signal had been detected. Meanwhile, Captain Vance sat in her cabin, staring at a small metal emblem, the old insignia of the Terran Alliance. It was worn and cracked, but it reminded her of home, of Earth, of the people who had believed in something more than survival. She whispered to the emblem, "I don't know what's left of us, but I'll find out." As the ship jumped through warped space, time seemed to twist again. In the blink of an eye, the stars changed. New constellations formed. Entire sectors looked different. When the Resolute emerged, she was in a region no chart had ever mapped. The AI scanned the void. "No known records," Hera said. "But I am detecting a large debris field ahead." "Human composition." Mara's heart skipped. "Show me." The forward cameras displayed a graveyard of broken ships drifting in the dark. Their hulls were old, Terran design, but centuries out of date. She floated through them in silence, reading the names etched in steel: Independence, Horizon, St. Petersburg, Talon. Her throat tightened. These were ours. "It appears the distress signal originated from this field," Hera said. "I am also detecting low-level power on one of the wrecks." Mara frowned. "Someone's alive!" "Unlikely, but there is an automated beacon. Old technology, still transmitting." The Resolute extended a scanning beam. After a few minutes, a message appeared on the screen, fragmented and distorted, but still readable. "This is Commander Elias Ward of the Terran Alliance. If you find this, we failed. The Ark project was destroyed. But the seed lives. The children will remember. Find the Ark." Mara's hands trembled slightly. "The Ark project," she whispered. She remembered the old plans, a desperate attempt to send human DNA and knowledge across the stars before the last war consumed everything. If even one of those Arks survived, humanity might still exist. She straightened in her seat. "Set course to trace that beacon. Whatever's left of us, we'll find it." As the Resolute turned away from the graveyard, a shadow followed, one of Voth's scout ships watching from afar. The Dominion had found her trail. The human ship vanished into the folds of light, leaving behind silent wrecks and a whisper of ancient memory. In her wake, the rumor grew stronger. On thousands of worlds, beings lifted their heads to the stars and whispered, "The humans are coming." And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to hope and to fear once again. And to fear once again. The Dominion scout ship trailed the Resolute through the darkness, staying far enough behind that its sensors would not register. Its captain, a young officer named Drell Voss, could barely breathe as he watched the human warship vanish and reappear between folds of warped light. It was moving faster than any known drive should allow. Every reading he took came back wrong. The ship didn't just travel through space. It seemed to bend it, slipping from one point to another as if the universe itself made room for it. "Captain," his first officer whispered, "we're too close. If they detect us—" "They won't," Drell said, though his voice trembled. "Keep recording. Command needs proof. He didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in myths." But as he stared at the glowing trail the Resolute left behind, He wasn't sure what to believe anymore. On board the Resolute, Captain Mara Vance studied the readings from the debris field they had left behind. The transmission from Commander Ward echoed in her mind. Find the Ark. It was more than a message. It was a calling. Somewhere out there, fragments of humanity still waited to be found. Hera, she said quietly, analyze the beacon's coordinates again. Is there a clear vector? Negative, the AI replied. Signal is fractured through multiple space distortions. However, triangulation suggests an origin near the Nebar Rift, a region currently under Dominion control. Of course it was. Mara sighed. Plot a course through the rift. Quietly. Captain, Hera said, if Dominion sensors detect us again, they may respond with aggression. They already see us as a threat, she said. The only way forward is through. As the ship shifted into jump mode, blue light filled the bridge. The stars bent and stretched, and then the Resolute vanished from normal space. When it reappeared, the Nebar Rift lay before them, a scar across the galaxy where reality seemed to have torn itself apart. Massive storms of radiation swirled around fractured moons. Lightning danced between shattered rocks. In the center of that chaos was a small dying star and something orbiting it. There, Mara said. What is that? The display zoomed in, revealing a metallic object half buried in debris. It was shaped like a spearhead, miles long, with faint human markings still visible along the hull. Hera's voice softened. Terran origin confirmed. Identification code ARC-7. Mara's heart raced. Open a channel. Let's see if anyone answers. A moment of static filled the speakers. Then a distorted, synthetic voice broke through. This is ARC-7. Automated systems online. Please identify. This is Captain Mara Vance of the Terran vessel Resolute, she said. Responding to your distress beacon, the voice paused. Captain Vance? You are centuries late. The bridge lights flickered. Centuries? She whispered. Time drift detected, Hera explained. Your temporal jump caused a discrepancy. From their perspective, you have been gone for 342 years, the voice from the Ark continued. We endured as long as we could. Power failing, systems degraded. We preserved what we could. The legacy of humanity. Legacy? Mara said. You mean data? Records? No, the voice said softly. Lives, Hera's readings confirmed it. Captain, the Ark contains suspended biopods, approximately 6,000 human genetic units in cryostasis. They appear intact. Mara's throat tightened. We can save them! Before she could speak again, the ship's alarm screamed. Incoming vessels, Hera reported. Dominion ships, 5, approaching fast. Mara's fists clenched. They must have tracked us. Outside, 5 sharp-edged Dominion cruisers dropped out of warp, weapons glowing. Admiral Karen Voth's face appeared on her display. Captain Vance, he said coldly, you are in restricted space. Power down your engines and surrender your vessel. You are in violation of Dominion law. Law? She repeated. You sent fleets to enslave colonies. You erased entire species. And you call that law? Voth's eyes narrowed. You misunderstand. I am not here to fight you. I am here to understand you. You attacked me, she said. I defended my people, he replied. You wield technology we cannot explain. You have the power to destroy entire fleets without firing a shot. Tell me, Captain, what are you? Mara stared at the image of his face. Human, she said simply. That's what I am. Human, he repeated softly, as if tasting the word. Then the stories were true. Before she could answer, one of the Dominion captains broke protocol. His ship fired a warning shot across the Resolute's bow. Energy flared harmlessly against its shields. Vance didn't move. That was a mistake! Hold fire! Voth shouted to his own fleet, but it was too late. Another cruiser opened up, unleashing a barrage. The Resolute reacted instantly. Space rippled around it like water. Every shot vanished, absorbed into nothing. Then a single pulse of light spread outward, disabling the Dominion ships in perfect silence. Their lights died. Their weapons cooled. Voth stared in disbelief. You didn't destroy them. I don't kill unless I must, Vance said. You can tell your council that. Then she turned her ship away. "Hera, get us to the Ark, now!" The Resolute dove into the rift, weaving between shattered asteroids. Behind them, Voth watched, powerless. His crew whispered among themselves. One asked, "Admiral, what do we do now?" Voth didn't answer. His eyes followed the fading light of the Resolute, and he said quietly, "We witness history." Inside the rift, the Resolute approached the massive Ark. The ship's hull was cracked, and its lights flickered weakly. Mara activated the tractor field, stabilizing its orbit. "Hera, begin life support synchronization," she said. "Processing. Warning. Power reserves minimal. Ark 7 will fail within 20 minutes. Then we don't have time." She unstrapped herself and moved to the engineering console. "Divert half our reactor output into their systems." "That will expose us," the AI warned. "Do it anyway." Electric arcs connected the two ships, flooding the Ark with life-giving power. Slowly, its systems began to hum again. "Cryogenic support restored," Hera confirmed. "Biopod stabilizing." Mara let out a long breath. "We did it." But then the Ark's AI spoke again, weaker than before. "Captain Vance, there's more." "What do you mean?" "The Ark carried more than life. It carried memory, history, every human mind we could preserve. The Terran Archive. It is stored here." The image of the Ark flickered, and deep within its structure, light began to pulse. Thousands of tiny orbs lit up, spreading across the hull like stars. Mara realized what she was seeing. Consciousness data, digital imprints of human lives. Scientists, soldiers, poets, families, millions of memories waiting in silence for centuries. "Hera," she said softly, "can we retrieve them?" "Yes," the AI replied. "But doing so will expose our location to every sensor within 5 light years." "Then we'd better make it quick." The Resolute extended a docking arm and connected to the Ark's main core. Streams of golden light flowed between them. Across the galaxy, Dominion scanners flared to life. Fleets began to move. The Resolute's actions had not gone unnoticed. As the last data transferred, the Ark's lights dimmed. Its voice whispered, "We kept them safe. Tell them the stars are still ours." Then the massive vessel went silent. "Hera?" Mara asked quietly. "Transfer complete. I now hold the Terran Archive, the sum of all recorded human history." Mara looked out the window at the fading light of the Ark. Then humanity isn't gone. It's just waiting. But before she could rest, alarms blared again. "Multiple warp signatures detected," Hera announced. "Dominion reinforcements inbound, hundreds of ships." Mara closed her eyes. "Time to leave." The Resolute's engines roared to life, bending space around it. Just as the Dominion fleet arrived, the human warship jumped away, leaving behind only silence and the drifting corpse of the Ark. Admiral Voth's fleet reached the scene minutes later. He looked upon the wreckage and whispered, "What have we awakened?" Across the galaxy, news of the Ark spread. Some called it salvation. Others called it the beginning of another war, and somewhere in the void, Captain Mara Vance stood before the glowing archive now alive within her ship's systems. Millions of voices whispered softly through the data stream. The memories of her people, alive once more. She smiled faintly. "You're home now," she said, "and the galaxy will remember you." Outside, the stars shivered as the Resolute disappeared once again into the endless dark, carrying with it the soul of humanity and the promise that nothing would ever be the same. Promise that nothing would ever be the same. The Resolute drifted in the quiet dark, its engines dimmed to a soft pulse. The warship no longer carried only one voice. It now carried millions. The Terran Archive had been uploaded into its core, and the ship itself seemed to hum differently, as if it remembered its purpose. Captain Mara Vance sat alone on the bridge, watching faint lights flicker across the panels. They were not just diagnostics. They were the memories of her people, now alive again inside the ship. She closed her eyes and listened. Sometimes, when the ship was quiet enough, she could hear them. The whispers of laughter, the hum of a city, the words of a child asking where the stars go when it rains. They were fragments, echoes of what humanity had been before it vanished. Hera's voice interrupted softly. Captain, the archive integration is 98% complete. However, several memory clusters show instability. What kind of instability? Mara asked. Conflicting data patterns. Personal memories overlapping. It is possible that consciousness fragments are attempting to interact. Mara frowned. You mean they're awake? In a limited sense, the AI replied. The archive was never designed to remain dormant for centuries. The personalities stored within may attempt to assert themselves. Before Mara could respond, the lights around her flickered again. The faint hum of the ship deepened, almost like a heartbeat. Then a new voice, human, distinctly male, spoke through the bridge speakers. This isn't the Ark anymore. Where am I? Mara froze. Identify yourself. There was silence for a moment. Then the voice said, Commander Elias Ward. Terran Alliance. Who are you? Mara took a slow breath. Captain Mara Vance, commanding officer of the Resolute. You're speaking from the archive, Commander. You've been preserved. Ward's voice came again, quieter now, full of disbelief. Preserved? Then the Arks worked? Partly, Mara said. We found Ark 7. It was barely alive. You and the others were still inside. I brought you here. A pause. Then, and Earth? Mara's chest tightened. Gone. Centuries gone. For a while, there was only the hum of the ship. Then Ward spoke again. Then you're all that's left of us. Mara stood, her hands clasped behind her back. Not anymore. You're here too, all of you, the voice softened. Then we start again. As the ship continued its silent journey, the archive began to awaken in waves. Voices, memories, and consciousness fragments connected with Hera's systems, expanding the Resolute's capabilities. The AI adapted quickly, evolving with each human echo it absorbed. The ship was becoming something new, part machine, part history, part soul. But not all the memories were peaceful. Late into the next cycle, while Mara was in the observation deck, a warning light flashed red across the console. Hera, she said. Internal network conflict detected, the AI reported. Archive memory stream Gamma 7 is attempting to override navigation protocols. Mara frowned. Override? Why? I am uncertain. The personality core identifies as Colonel Adrian Cole, Terran Defense Command. He appears to believe we are in wartime. The bridge lights dimmed, and a voice thundered through the speakers, deep, commanding, and angry. Unidentified officer, state your designation. This vessel is under Terran military lockdown. Colonel Cole, Mara said calmly. Stand down. The war is over. You've been dormant for centuries. Impossible, the voice barked. The Dominion fleet is still active. They're the enemy. They're not your enemy anymore, she interrupted. There's no Terran alliance left to defend. Humanity's gone. Silence. Then the voice said quietly, Then I failed. Mara felt the ache in those words. No, she said gently. You survived. That's more than most. There was no reply, but the red lights faded. The systems returned to normal. She leaned back in her chair and sighed. Hera, how many more of them are waking? Hundreds, the AI said softly. Perhaps thousands. They are trying to understand where they are. Who they are, Mara smiled faintly. Then let them. We'll give them time. She thought about what it meant. Millions of human minds existing as memories, digital ghosts riding aboard a single ship. Maybe this was what humanity had become, a story that refused to end. Meanwhile, in Dominion space, the effects of the Resolute's actions were spreading. The story of the Ark had reached every corner of the Empire. Slaves whispered it in the dark, soldiers repeated it in mess halls, and merchants traded versions of it at every port. They said the human ship carried the souls of the dead. They said it could turn entire fleets into dust. They said it had come to judge those who ruled unjustly. Admiral Karen Voth watched these rumors spread like wildfire. He knew better than to believe every story, but he couldn't stop the unease crawling through his people. The Dominion's power had always rested on fear, and now something else was growing in its place. Hope. Hope was dangerous. He stood before a massive window overlooking the capital city. If the humans return hope to the slaves, they'll start to question their chains, he muttered. Behind him, a soft voice spoke. Perhaps that is why they came. Voth turned. It was Esha Kren, the ancient scholar from the council. Her eyes gleamed with quiet wisdom. You've read the old records? She said. You know what they were like. Humans didn't fight because they loved war. They fought because they couldn't stand the idea of being owned. Voth frowned. You sound as though you admire them. I fear them, she said. But perhaps I fear what we've become even more. Voth looked back at the city. If the humans want peace, they should stay silent. Their presence alone will start a rebellion. Maybe that's what they want, she said softly. Far beyond Dominion space, the Resolute approached a barren world, an old Terran colony long abandoned. Scans showed only ruins and faint energy signatures. Mara watched from the bridge as the ship descended through thin clouds, its shadow falling across a broken city. Atmosphere stable, Hera said. Minimal radiation, surface structures partially intact. Mara stepped onto the ramp as it opened, breathing the stale air. Dust swirled around her boots. Once this had been a human world. She could almost see the ghosts of children running through the streets, their laughter echoing through the ruins. Hera, begin scanning for data remnants. The AI's drones spread out, hovering through the air like small orbs of light. I am detecting faint power in a central structure ahead, Hera said. Mara walked through cracked stone corridors until she reached a massive chamber. At its center stood a single ancient terminal still flickering with power. On its screen was a faded symbol, the emblem of the Terran Alliance. She brushed the dust away and activated it. The terminal's voice was faint but clear. If you are hearing this, humanity has fallen, but our story has not ended. We built the Orcs so that one day our children could return. If you've come back, remember who we were, and never let the stars belong to tyrants again. Mara felt a lump rise in her throat. She whispered, I remember. The AI spoke gently. Captain, there is something else. This terminal references a second project. One not in our records. Show me. A hologram appeared, a schematic of a massive ship hidden deep beneath the planet's crust. The words read, Project Genesis. What is it? She asked. Unknown, Hera said. But its purpose seems linked to planetary reconstruction. Possibly a terraforming device, or a weapon. Mara stared at the hologram. Humanity had left more behind than anyone realized. Hera, she said quietly, we're going to find it. The ship rose from the planet, dust storms swirling beneath it. As it left orbit, she looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dominion would come again. And next time, they wouldn't just be facing one human ship. They'd be facing the past, and everything it still remembered. In the heart of the Resolute, the archive whispered like wind through old leaves. Among the thousands of digital minds, one voice spoke faintly. We built the stars once. We can do it again. And Captain Mara Vance smiled because for the first time in centuries, she believed it was true. The Resolute drifted through the edge of the dying star system, its hull glowing faintly as radiation washed against it. Captain Mara Vance stood in silence before the main viewport, her eyes fixed on the cracked world below. The ancient Terran terminal's message echoed in her mind. Project Genesis. It sounded like hope wrapped in mystery, a remnant of humanity's final gamble before extinction. But hope, she had learned, was often the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. Hera, she said softly, status on our deep scans? Still processing, Captain, replied the AI. Planetary core interference is high, but the signal signature is unlike any known design. Energy readings suggest an active containment field, still operational after 3 centuries. Mara turned slowly. You're saying Genesis is still alive? In some capacity, yes. The energy pattern indicates a sealed facility buried 20 kilometers beneath the surface. Mara nodded. Prepare the descent module. I'm going down. Hera hesitated. Captain, the radiation levels... I'll take the protective armor, she interrupted. I need to see it myself. The AI's tone softened. Acknowledged. Be careful. Minutes later, Mara stepped into the small landing craft. The ship detached and fell toward the gray planet, cutting through the clouds like a blade. From above, the world looked like ash and bone. The surface shimmered faintly where old cities had melted into glass. As the craft landed amid the ruins, the ground cracked beneath her boots. "Hera," she said through her helmet link, "guide me to the source. 300 meters to the east. I'm marking the path with beacon projections." Glowing blue lights appeared ahead, cutting through the fog. As she walked, she passed the skeletons of machines, their purpose long forgotten. Rusted signs marked the old colony's name, Eden 3. It felt cruel now, that name, a promise broken by time. The beacons led her to a collapsed crater, half swallowed by rock and dust. Embedded within it was a vast metal surface, curving downward into the darkness, a hidden door. "Looks like Genesis," Mara said. "Is there an entry point?" "Negative," Hera replied. "But I can attempt to interface remotely if you place a relay node." Mara knelt beside the door and attached a small black sphere to the metal. The moment it connected, the entire structure vibrated. Lights flickered along its edges, forming concentric circles that pulsed outward. Then, with a deep groan, the door began to open. The ground trembled as ancient locks disengaged. A shaft of golden light spilled upward, illuminating the crater. Inside was a vast chamber, a cathedral of metal stretching down into the earth. At its center, a colossal cylindrical core pulsed slowly with blue energy. "Hera," Mara whispered. "It's still running." "I am detecting power signatures consistent with quantum bioreactive technology," the AI said. "Captain, this is not just a machine. It's alive." Mara descended carefully, the sound of her boots echoing through the chamber. The closer she came to the core, the more she felt it, a subtle vibration in her bones, like a heartbeat synced with her own. Then a voice filled her helmet, calm and human. "Identify yourself." Mara froze. "Captain Mara Vance, Terran Vessel Resolute." "Who am I speaking to?" "I am the custodian." "Project Genesis primary interface. Authorization code required." "I don't have one," she said carefully. "Humanity is gone. I found this place through the Arc transmissions." The voice paused, then said quietly, "Humanity." "Gone?" Mara exhaled. "Yes, the Alliance fell centuries ago. You've been alone all this time." The core pulsed brighter, almost like a sigh. "Then I have failed my purpose." "What was your purpose?" she asked. "To restore what was lost. To give life back to the stars." Mara's eyes widened. "You're a terraforming engine. More than that. Project Genesis was designed to reseed human-compatible worlds using preserved DNA and memory patterns. The plan was never completed. We waited for the signal to begin. It never came." She stepped closer. "I can give you that signal." There was silence. Then the custodian's voice softened. "If you activate me, the process cannot be undone. I will awaken the Genesis lattice and begin planetary reconstruction. But there is risk. The Dominion will detect the energy release." "They'll come no matter what," Mara said. "We can't hide forever. Then humanity will rise again. From the ashes." Before she could respond, Hera's voice cut through. "Captain, we have incoming warp signatures. Dominion fleet, multiple vessels." Mara's blood ran cold. "How close?" "Too close," Hera said. "They must have tracked your descent." "Hold them off," she said. "I'm activating Genesis." She placed her hand on the core's surface. The metal was warm beneath her gloves. "Custodian, begin the sequence." "Acknowledged." Reinitializing planetary life support systems. Seeding process commencing. The chamber erupted with light. Energy surged through the walls, spreading outward in golden streams that raced through the planet's crust. The ground shook violently as dormant machinery woke from its slumber. Above, the barren skies began to shimmer with color, faint clouds forming for the first time in centuries. "Captain," Hera said urgently, "you need to evacuate." "The Dominion ships are entering orbit." Mara turned toward the opening shaft. "I'm on my way." She sprinted up the access ramp as the chamber below filled with thunder. The air crackled with power. When she reached the surface, her landing craft was already roaring to life. She climbed aboard and launched just as plasma fire streaked through the clouds above. Dominion cruisers descended like predators, their weapons locked onto the glowing crater. But before they could fire, something impossible happened. The planet fought back. Bolts of blue lightning burst from the surface, striking the ships and tearing them apart. The energy of Genesis wasn't just rebuilding, it was defending itself. Mara's voice trembled with awe. "Hera, tell me you're seeing this." "I am," the AI said. "The planet's magnetic field is weaponized. It's rewriting its own structure." The cruisers tried to retreat, but gravity itself warped around them. One by one, they shattered, their debris burning in the atmosphere. The Genesis field had claimed the planet as its own. As the Resolute descended through orbit to retrieve her, Admiral Karen Voth's fleet arrived at the edge of the system. He watched from his command bridge as sensors filled with chaotic data. "What happened here?" he muttered. "Sir," his second officer said, "the planet is changing. It's alive." Through the viewport, the world below glowed with new color. Oceans spread across its surface. The skies turned from gray to pale blue. It was as if time itself was reversing. Voth's breath caught. The humans did this. On the Resolute, Mara watched from her bridge as Genesis completed its transformation. Where once there had been ash, now there was light and life. Mountains gleamed, rivers shimmered, and the air itself seemed to sing. Hera spoke softly. "Captain, you've done it. You've awakened a world." Mara stared in silence. "No," she said finally. "We've reminded it how to live." But the moment of peace didn't last. Alarms flared across the console. "Hera!" "Massive energy surge," the AI reported. "Dominion reinforcements, hundreds of ships inbound." Mara clenched her jaw. "They'll come to destroy it. They'll say it's dangerous." "Perhaps it is," Hera said. "But so is hope." She turned toward the comms array. "Then we send a message." "To whom?" the AI asked. "To everyone," she said. "Every system, every colony, every free being left in this galaxy." She activated the broadcast, her voice echoing across 1,000 worlds. "This is Captain Mara Vance of the Terran vessel Resolute. Humanity is not gone. We live in every world that still dreams of freedom. We have restored what was lost. If you hear this, know this truth. No empire lasts forever. Rise, remember who you are." As the transmission spread, the galaxy listened. Slaves in the Dominion mines stopped working. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Children looked to the stars with wonder. And on the reborn planet below, the first drops of rain began to fall. Admiral Voth watched from his ship silent. The woman he had once tried to destroy had just set the galaxy on fire, not with war, but with belief. He whispered to himself, "What have you done, human?" In the heart of the Resolute, the Terran archive pulsed with quiet light, whispering through the data streams. Millions of voices spoke as one. "We remember." And the stars, for the first time in centuries, began to change. Stars, for the first time in centuries, began to change. The galaxy trembled under the echo of her words. Mara Vance's broadcast traveled farther than she could imagine, through wormhole relays, ancient satellites, pirate frequencies, even through the black markets of forbidden worlds. It carried a simple truth that could not be stopped. The humans were back. In the beginning, no one believed it. Some called it a trick, a psychological weapon from a hidden empire. Others dismissed it as myth. But across the sectors, the message began to take root. Small revolts erupted in the Dominion's outer colonies. Slaves laid down their tools. Governors who once ruled through terror found their soldiers refusing to fire. It wasn't organized rebellion yet, but it was something worse for the Dominion. Hope. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mara stood silent as Hera played intercepted transmissions. Voices of hundreds of species filled the air, some pleading, some rallying, some simply whispering the same phrase, "We remember." "They're listening," Hera said softly. Mara's expression was unreadable. "They're waking up, but they're not ready for what comes next," the AI continued. "The Dominion will strike back, hard." "I know," she said. "They'll come for Genesis first, indeed." At the edges of the newly reborn world, hundreds of Dominion warships were gathering, led by none other than Admiral Karen Voth. He watched the planet from orbit, the soft blue glow of its new oceans reflecting across his eyes. For the first time in his life, he hesitated to give an order. "Admiral," his second-in-command pressed, The Council demands we contain this contagion before it spreads. They say this world is a weapon. Voth turned slowly. And what do you think it is? The officer hesitated. It's beautiful. The word hung in the air like a sin. Voth faced the viewport again. The Council calls for destruction. But I have seen what happens when you fight something born from conviction. The humans do not conquer through fear. They conquer through belief. He closed his eyes briefly. Prepare the fleet. We will engage only if attacked. Back aboard the Resolute, Mara reviewed the new sensor data. The Dominion blockade was forming fast, too fast for her to fight head-on. Even with her ship's superior technology, 1,000 warships were an impossible wall. Hera, she said, run tactical simulations. Even at maximum efficiency, the AI replied. Our chance of victory is less than 1%, however. There may be another path. I'm listening. The Genesis core is expanding faster than anticipated. Within 72 hours, it will reach full stability. When that happens, it will emit a massive energy pulse, strong enough to disable any ship within orbit for several minutes. Mara's eyes narrowed. That's our window. Correct. But the pulse will also expose us. We'll be defenseless for 30 seconds. Mara's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. Then we make those 30 seconds count. As preparations began, she walked alone through the Resolute's quiet halls. The ship felt different now. The whispers of the archive had grown louder, almost conscious. She could sense them. Voices of men and women, scientists, soldiers, dreamers, all watching her. Talk to me, she said softly. Tell me I'm not crazy. A voice, familiar and calm, answered her through the comm speakers. You're not crazy, Captain. You're doing what humans have always done. She froze. Ward! The projection of Commander Elias Ward shimmered before her. Faint light, a digital ghost. You carry all of us now. You think you're alone, but every decision you make, we're with you. She stared at him. Then tell me what I'm doing. Am I saving humanity or am I starting another war? Ward smiled faintly. Sometimes they're the same thing. Outside, the reborn planet shone brighter each day. New life bloomed across its surface. The Genesis lattice had begun transforming not just soil and air, but memory itself. The archive had integrated pieces of its code into the planet's structure. In a strange way, the world was becoming aware. In the nights, Mara could feel it. Whispers carried through the static. The planet seemed to recognize her presence, reaching through faint magnetic pulses. When she slept, she dreamed of oceans forming, forests rising, human children laughing on alien soil. But the dreams grew darker. In one, she saw the Dominion burning the new world. She saw the Genesis core twisting out of control. She saw Hera's light fading. When she woke, she whispered to herself, "Not this time." The next morning, the Dominion fleet arrived in full force. Hundreds of ships encircled the planet, their formation tight, engines glowing crimson. The sky above the reborn world darkened under their shadow. Voth sent a transmission. Captain Vance, this is your last warning. Cease the Genesis activation and surrender your vessel. I will not ask again. Mara appeared on his display, calm and unshaken. You won't have to. I'm not surrendering. Voth studied her for a moment. You've unleashed something you don't understand. That planet, it's rewriting physics itself. It could destroy everything. Mara's gaze was steady. It's not destruction. It's creation. It's what we lost. You've doomed us all, he said. Maybe, she replied. Or maybe I've given us another chance. Voth turned off the channel and stared at the blue world one last time. Then, reluctantly, he gave the order. All ships, fire. Thousands of plasma beams cut through space, converging on the planet's surface. The strikes hit the atmosphere and disappeared. A vast, blinding pulse erupted from the planet, washing over the fleet like a tidal wave. Every Dominion ship shuddered as systems failed. Engines died. Weapons froze. The entire armada went dark. Inside the Resolute, Hera's voice was calm but urgent. Now, Captain. The pulse window has begun. Target the flagship, Mara ordered. Channel full power to comms. We're going to talk to them. The Resolute moved through the paralyzed fleet, its engines trailing golden light. When it stopped before the Vorath Prime, Voth's powerless ship, Mara opened the channel again. Admiral, she said softly, Look at what's happening. That world below us, it's alive. You can destroy me, but you can't kill an idea. You can't stop life from returning. Voth stared at the view screen. Below them, the planet's surface shimmered like a living ocean. Clouds twisted into luminous shapes, forming patterns like veins of light. It was beautiful, terrifying, unstoppable. Mara continued. You can either burn with the old world or live in the new one. Voth said nothing. Then, slowly, he turned to his crew. Stand down. The bridge fell silent. One by one, Dominion officers lowered their weapons. Outside, the pulse faded. The ships regained power, but no one fired. Across the fleet, captains hesitated, watching the human ship drift beside the reborn world. Some began to shut down their weapons. Others followed. Mara watched the readings on her console. Hera, she whispered. We did it. For now, the AI replied. But peace is fragile. She looked out at the stars. Then we'll protect it. Far below, the Genesis world pulsed once more, sending ripples through space. Across the galaxy, dormant signals began to awaken, old Terran beacons lighting up after centuries of silence. On a distant moon, a forgotten outpost received one such signal. A small console flickered to life, displaying a single line of text. Arc 1 status. Active. The rebirth of humanity had only just begun. As the Resolute turned toward the stars, Mara felt something shift deep inside her. For the first time in her long, lonely life, she was no longer the last human. The past was no longer dead. It was alive, singing quietly in the hum of her ship, whispering through the winds of a new world, and in the heart of the reborn planet. Something vast and luminous stirred. It had no name yet, but it remembered one thing clearly, the voice of its creator. Rise, and so it did. Rise, and so it did. The world below shimmered with a newborn light. Genesis had done the impossible, rebuilt a dead planet, seeded it with breath and warmth, and awakened something that was neither machine nor God, but a new form of life altogether. From orbit, the view was mesmerizing. Rivers flowing through black stone valleys, clouds weaving silver threads across continents, and in the heart of it all, a great glowing sea that pulsed like the heartbeat of a living world. The Dominion fleets, which had once surrounded the planet like wolves around a wounded animal, now kept their distance. Mara Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes fixed on the blue-green sphere below. The bridge was quieter now. Even the hum of the engines seemed reverent, as if the ship itself understood what it was witnessing. Hera, she said softly, give me an update on surface growth. Ecosystems forming at accelerated rates, the AI replied. Atmosphere stabilizing. Water cycle fully restored. Energy field from the Genesis core continues to expand, though? Though what? Though it is evolving. The field no longer behaves as a simple energy construct. It's adapting, learning. Mara turned from the window. You mean it's conscious? Not in the human sense, Hera said carefully. But it is aware. It recognizes us, Captain. Before Mara could respond, a low hum filled the bridge, deeper and more rhythmic than the engines. The ship's lights dimmed, and every display flashed the same symbol, a glowing circle divided by a line. Hera's tone shifted. Captain, the Genesis field is attempting communication. Put it through. The bridge fell silent. Then a voice came, not mechanical, not entirely human, but something in between. It sounded like 1,000 whispers merged into one. We remember you, Mara's breath caught. Genesis? You gave us life. We have seen what you were. We have seen what you lost. We are what remains. Hera monitored the readings. Captain, it's interfacing with the archive. It's absorbing human memory patterns. It's learning history. You built us to create, the voice continued. But creation cannot exist without choice. We will choose what we become, Mara frowned. You're saying you want to evolve beyond your design? To live is to grow, the voice said. Even for those born of machines, a deep silence followed. Then the connection faded, leaving the bridge bathed in the soft hum of power again. Mara stood motionless for a moment. Hera, she said finally, monitor the Genesis field closely. I need to know what it's becoming. Understood, the AI replied. Outside, the planet's glow intensified, casting a pale blue light across the fleet. Some Dominion captains watched in awe. Others watched in fear. Rumors spread through the ranks. Some said the humans had created a god. Others said they had unleashed a monster. Admiral Karen Voth stared at the world from his flagship, his mind torn between duty and wonder. He had seen empires rise and fall, but nothing like this. "Send a message to the human," he said quietly. When the call reached the Resolute, Mara answered. "You've made something we don't understand," Voth said. "And that frightens every ruler in the galaxy." "I didn't make it," she replied. "We just woke it up." "Whatever you call it," Voth said, "it's changing everything. The Council has declared the entire sector off limits. They're sending more fleets. They mean to destroy the planet." Mara's jaw tightened. "They'll fail. You saw what it did to your last armada." "I did," Voth admitted. "That's why I'm warning you. This time, they're not coming with ships. They're coming with extinction weapons, planet breakers." Mara's voice was steady. "Then we'll stop them." "You can't fight the whole galaxy," he said. "Then I'll teach the galaxy what it means to be human again." She cut the transmission. Hours later, the stars shifted as new fleets arrived, massive carrier groups. Superweapons designed to rip atmospheres from worlds. They came not just from the Dominion, but from other empires too, bound by fear of what Genesis represented. "Hera," Mara said, "prepare the shield harmonics. If they fire, I want the Genesis field ready to respond." "Captain," the AI warned, "Genesis may interpret any aggression as existential threat. It might retaliate on a scale we cannot predict." Mara's voice softened. "Then let's make sure they don't fire." She opened the comms channel to every ship in orbit, human, Dominion, and otherwise. "This is Captain Mara Vance of the Terran vessel Resolute. You came here to destroy what you fear. But what you fear isn't death, it's change. Genesis isn't a weapon. It's proof that life endures." "You can destroy me!" "You can destroy this ship. But you cannot kill what was built to live." Her words carried through the void. And something began to happen. Across the fleets, some crews hesitated. Some shut down their targeting systems. A few even turned their ships away. But not all. One Dominion dreadnought broke formation and fired. A single beam of searing light streaked toward the planet. It never reached the surface. The sky erupted. The Genesis field expanded outward, swallowing the beam, the ship that fired it, and then the rest of the fleet. For a moment, there was only light, brighter than any star. Then silence. When it cleared, the fleets were gone. The planet still shone, untouched. Mara stared in stunned silence. "Hera, what just happened?" "The Genesis field has rewritten local space-time. The ships were not destroyed. They were moved. Moved where? I cannot tell. Somewhere outside conventional space." Mara swallowed hard. "It protected itself." "Yes," Hera said softly. "And us." Then the voice returned, calmer now, almost human. "We do not wish for war, but life will defend itself. You gave us existence. Now we will give you something in return." The sensors lit up. Across the galaxy, dormant Terran arcs began to awaken one by one. Long-lost colonies, forgotten worlds, human fragments sleeping in cryo or encoded in data vaults, all flickered to life. "Captain," Hera said, "I'm detecting hundreds of signals. The Arcs are answering." Mara's eyes widened. "It's calling them home." "The stars are yours again," Genesis whispered. "Go and build wisely." Then, slowly, the light of the planet dimmed, settling into a steady, gentle pulse. Genesis no longer roared. It breathed. Mara stood in silence, feeling the hum of life beneath her feet. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was no longer a graveyard. It was a nursery. "Hera," she said, "set a course." "Where to, Captain?" "Wherever they need us next." The Resolute turned toward the stars, engines flaring gold. Behind it, the reborn world glowed softly, its light spreading across the void like dawn after endless night. In time, stories would spread, of the human captain who defied empires, of the machine that learned to dream, and of the planet that chose to live. Some would call it a myth. Others would call it the beginning. But among the stars, whispered in every language, a single truth would endure. The humans had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. Would ever be the same again.